No, John, no formal comment for the board. Lots of comments about the library closure and general comments about the library director letter to the editor.
Okay. You can share some of that with us later then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. In that case, ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the Board of Trustees meeting minutes, May 18th, 2020, the income and expense report through May 31st, year to date, and our study session review of the 10-year financial plan held on June 4th. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Liz moves. Second?
Second.
Ann seconds. Thank you. Anyone have any edits or corrections to any of that material?
I have one edit.
Yes, Beth.
On the, it just lists me as the secretary, which is incorrect.
On the minutes?
Yep.
Thanks, Beth. I'll take care of that.
No worries.
Mine lists you as doesn't list you that way, and you weren't present at our May meeting.
That's what I thought too, but I'm on there at the bottom where you sign it.
Oh, okay, yes, for signatures. Yeah, Joanna, we need to get that signature page corrected. I think we may have that wrong on several different months.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other corrections or edits? Anyone wish to pull any of those items off of the consent agenda? I see none. Everyone unmute, please. We'll take a verbal vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's approved. Okay. As I said, we welcome Jim Henkel, the head of our audit company, to give us a few words with regard to the library's audit, which was conducted over the last few months. I'm John Kruger, by the way, Jim. I'm the board president. And I spoke with your auditor. She gave me a call and we had a discussion about a few items. So if you'd like to share some things with us, we'd appreciate it.
I certainly will. Thank you all for letting me join you for your meeting tonight and give a brief overview of the audit and the audit process. Generally, in this kind of environment, not being virtual, just at a board meeting, we talk more about the process of the audit and what we did and went through, as opposed to the actual numbers in the financial statement. By now, they're close to 6 months old, and you're all on to the new year, where you talk mostly about how we do the audit, what we look for, and what our findings are of the audit. I will say that this was an unusual year, as you all might quite imagine, with COVID creating a hole right in the middle of the audit schedule. I will tell you all that you all are in a very good position. There are a number of municipalities, cities, towns, counties, and related authorities and districts that, because of the shutdown, haven't even finished closing their books yet, let alone the audit process started. So this is quite a crazy year, but you all have weathered through it quite well. We do all of our audit work electronically, so we were able to proceed with our audit process seamlessly in this kind of an environment of people being in different places and being remote. So it continued to work out well. We started our audit process by first evaluating and making sure we understood the library district's internal accounting controls and the processes of those controls. We then will identify the major control features within those internal accounting controls. We will select samples and then test with those sample transactions, those control features. We do that primarily on the disbursements and on the payroll cycles, since most all of the revenues come in through the payroll or through the taxes. Our findings as a result of that are used for two purposes. One is to design the audit procedures for the year-end audit balances. And the second is to identify any weaknesses in the internal controls. We have two words of art that we use in the audit world: a significant deficiency and a material weakness. A significant deficiency is a design flaw in the internal control structure that will allow an accounting error to go undetected in the ordinary course of business. Material weakness is a significant deficiency that would have resulted in a material misstatement of the financial statements. Based upon our analysis of the internal control structure, the segregation of duties, and our testing of the significant control features, we did not notice any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls. So that is the result that you all want. I know you're going through a transition period to pull more of the accounting into your own internal operations and out of the city operations. From what we were able to tell through the year ending 19, things have been planned out well, and you still have that segregation of duties in place to be able to have good internal controls. From that point, then we design our tests on the year-end balances, both the balance sheet and the income statements. And we primarily will do what we call substantive testing that includes test of details of the account balances, where we drill down into account balances and look at what makes up those account balances. And then we will trace items back to supporting documentation, deposits in the bank statement for receipts of accounts receivable, invoices, and other documentation to support payables and disbursements. We also use analytic review procedures to ensure that the relationships are as we would expect them. Those might be comparing this year to last year, this year to budget, or accounts receivable to revenue, accounts payable to expenditures, things along those lines, looking for unusual relationships that would require us to drill down a little farther into the details to determine if there's any misstatement or not. The result of this work is our audit opinion, and we did issue a unmodified opinion, which in layman's term is a clean opinion, states that the financial statements are in accordance with general accepted accounting principles and applied on a consistent basis with the previous year. All in all, it went well. You have a clean opinion and no findings as far as significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We'd like to thank Cindy for all of her efforts in an unusual year. Kind of the last thing that I'd say about the audit is that everything that we asked for, we were provided. We never felt like we were kept from anything, so we felt as though we had full transparency in the accounting records and the supporting documentation. Finally, on all audits, we're required to issue what we call a required communication letter. Under our professional standards, we're required to communicate in writing if we have any of a certain number of things that occur during the audit. And if we don't have any of those things, we're still required to communicate in writing that we did not have any items that we're required to communicate. And that is in fact what this letter states this year, is that we did not have any issues required for us to communicate. For example, we did not have any significant issues or problems with the audit process. We did not have any disagreements with management with respect to the audit or the scope of the audit. We did not run into a situation where we learned that management was talking to other CPA firms. That goes back 10, 15 years ago when some auditees would do opinion shopping. They wouldn't like the opinion or the result that one auditor would give, so they would go talk to other auditors until they found one that would give them the result they wanted. If we're aware of that, we have to communicate that, and we have not been aware of any of those types of discussions. So all in all, it's a clean opinion and a clean letter to those charged with governance that we did not have any issues during the process of the audit. I've said a mouthful. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll be happy to answer whatever you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Normally, we have the opportunity to have our audit subcommittee, which is our finance committee, meet with the auditor before we have this session, and I imagine that did not happen, even by Zoom. So I'll open it up to them first if they have any questions or comments to make. David, first for you, and then McKay.
Well, just one that has basically been cleared up for me, and thank you for being here, Mr. Ankle. The one item that came up was the prior adjustment of the depreciation. Is that just simply a logistic in the audit, or does it denote a material change of any kind other than a net position change, obviously?
It does. And again, that was primarily cleaning up depreciation on prior years from 17, 16, 15, 14 on back, primarily in the books and the visual aid materials where those had continued on appreciation. Because that's a non-cash item, because that's not a issue with internal controls of collecting receipts and paying disbursements and things like that, we did not believe that was a material weakness in the day-to-day internal accounting controls. But it does clean up that depreciation schedule very well.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, David?
Not at the moment. Okay. Anything from you?
I think when we reviewed the draft form, we did have some questions, but Cindy went back to the auditor. Is it Naomi?
Yes.
Yeah, and we got answers to all of them. So I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Claudine, any comments, questions?
I would simply ask John that Sarah put in the notes a chat question. Jim, you've just now met the Finance Committee of David and Kay, and I wanted to just capitalize on this moment and say Cindy was exemplary from where I sit. And for the first time, I had a blow-by-blow of every question that our bookkeeper is asked through the audit process. And I have to say, I learned quite a lot from Cindy and Noni. So I found the process somewhat challenging, but I think Cindy found it ordinary. So I just want to point out that I think that's a plus. I want to ask John that we give a few minutes to Sarah Walsh. She's the executive director of our Friends and Foundation, Jim, and I want to make sure she has a moment to ask her questions. Is that all right, John? Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. We'll give the rest of the board and Sarah and opportunity to ask any questions, especially since the Friends and Foundation numbers are included as a piece of the organization associated. So first, any other board members have any questions, comments? Liz? No?
No, I
Beth?
don't.
Ann?
Nope.
Okay, I think, Bill, are you there? There you are.
I'm there, and no
Okay.
questions.
All right, Sarah, you have anything you'd like to comment or make a question on?
Yes. Thank you all very much for allowing us to be part of your process. I know it was a last minute change. Our CPA retired from that type of work. And we found out a little bit too late. And so we were very grateful to have our books be part of yours. We are expecting our 990 and just curious as to when the Friends and Foundation will receive that.
Yes, the normal due date for 990s is the fifth month, 15th day of the fifth month, which was
We are expecting
technically
our
on May
990 and just curious
15th.
as to
But
when
because of the COVID pandemic, the IRS automatically extended every due date from April 15th to July 15th, carte blanche, whether that is individual taxes, 990s, estimated tax payments, anything that had a due date within that April 15th to July 15th period got automatically extended to July 15th. You do have an opportunity to file an extension that would normally take the due date up to November 15th. However, we will have the 990 completed and with you and filed before that July 15th adjusted due date. It's in process right now.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And Finley? Anything?
No questions. That's it. It was just with Sarah, so thanks.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Kruger, the only thing I'd like to finish with is, other than thank you for letting me take out some time of your meeting, I would like to remind everyone that as the external auditors, we work with management, but we work for the board. So our phone number is on the letterhead in the audit. My name is Mr. Hinkle. If you ever have any questions throughout the year or at any time, we welcome you to contact us either directly or through Claudine or Cindy, either way. But I want to emphasize the fact that as auditors, we do work for the board while we work with management, and that is a big distinction.
All right, thank you very much. I would share with you that this coming year is the year that we need to send out by our policies an RFP for an auditor. So I would expect that you will be one of those that will receive that. And we hope you give us good consideration.
We absolutely will.
All right, Cindy Seckman, with Claudine's approval, I'd like to give you an opportunity to make any comments around the audit before we take a vote.
Thank you. And Jim, thank you for being here this evening. I would like to send my personal thanks to Noni. She was very helpful, very patient, and helped get things in very good order in what was quite a bit of a challenging year with everything being remote. And I really appreciated her help. So I think it turned out well, and I thought we worked well together. So thank you.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Cindy. Okay. We'll move to our action item if there's no other comments or questions to the auditor. Our first action item is from the Finance Committee. I'll call on David Hempel to make a motion to receive the 2019 audited financial statement.
I will just repeat what you said. I move that the trustees receive the 2019 audited financial statements as prepared by Hinkle & Company for 2019.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ann Coleman, thank you. Okay, we have the audit formally before us then. Are there any comments, questions anyone has at this stage before we take the vote? I see no one.
I will just add my kudos to, I'm sorry, John. I will just add my kudos to Cindy too for her work and just really welcome a clean opinion that we got.
I think management overall did an excellent job working with the auditor, and I think Jim expressed that as well. We appreciated it. Okay. If everyone will unmute then, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of receiving and accepting the 2019 audited financial statements, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jim. You're always, of course, this is a public session formally. You can stay on if you want to and hear the rest of our business, but you may have other things more important.
Thank you very much. And I think I will go ahead and leave and get back to some other work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, our next action item on our agenda is policy. Everyone hopefully received a copy of that and had an opportunity to read it. It is an update of our internet policies into one policy. And I'll call on the policy chair, Bill Garretts, to share with regard, well, first let's get a motion on the floor for that. Bill, do you
I
want?
so move.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dave seconds. Okay. Bill, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, this is a straightforward policy adoption. There used to be two policies, one on internet use and one on internet filtering. There were no changes of any kind on the internet use policy. There were some changes on the internet filtering policy. Mainly, I think, the effort that was led by Mark, who I think is with us tonight. And perhaps he or Claudine would like to discuss those. They weren't gigantic. And then, because the two policies are so closely related, they have been merged into one policy for simplification.
Okay. Thank you. Claudine, is there anything you want to share?
I like Bill's straightforward summary. I would simply say some of the changes to highlight so that nothing, it's not hidden, is small things like it used to say no library card is required for access, and we changed that to say the library reserves the right to require a library account in good standing. So things that were perhaps tightening up of internet use and filtering. And then the only other subtle point I would highlight is I had to ask Mark myself, what is the difference between a filter and a firewall? So we clarified that in the policy for people like me who might need to understand the firewall does not go away when asked under any circumstances, but the filter does. I would leave it to Mark to signal us through chat if there's anything he'd like to add, or looks like he's good to go. Thank you. And thanks to the policy committee.
Okay. Anyone have any questions, comments about this policy? And we enact the policy, so when anyone logs on, they have to accept, whether they've read it or not in actuality. So that's our process. I guess that's captured that when, and is that kept and maintained somehow that people have accepted?
It is not captured, John. It's not maintained. They simply can't get access through the library's computer or wireless without accepting.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone? Any questions, comments? I'd say that I like the conciseness and combining of the two policies myself. Okay, seeing no one seeking the floor, if you'll unmute, we'll call for the vote. All those in the favor of approving and accepting the new combined internet policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Thank you very much. Policy committee and staff who worked on this. Okay, those are the only action items we have this evening. We have a few discussions, reports. For me, on the government affairs, we included an updated version of our annual work plan. Claudine corrected the the history for the first 6 months as well. And looking forward, we have a few things that will be coming up, particularly of note is we will have two positions whose terms will expire at the end of this year. And so in August, I'll be appointing a nominating committee. I'll be talking to a few board members to participate on that. Ann Coleman's second term will be ending, and David Hempel's first term will be ending. So we'll be planning to take care of that. On the work plan is the CalCon conference. I received official notification for trustees that it will be a virtual conference this year. They are concerned significantly with possible lack of attendance virtually, as well as a loss of revenue and income. They're still working out some of the details for all of that, so I don't know what the cost will be, if it will be less than what we've normally paid, but it is in our budget, correct, Claudine, for trustees to attend. The plan, the schedule originally set out was for pretty much a one-day trustee format. So we'll see if they stick with that or something else happens. David is on the agenda to participate in one of those talks. So we'll have more information by our August meeting to confirm exactly what the plan, but you should be receiving CalCon or Cal notifications and emails. I hope everyone is receiving those. Yes, Claudine.
Thanks for the heads up, John. I know you are now more connected to the conference than I am. And I think I understand that they made that decision. The conference is a moneymaker for the association, and I would agree it would be a money loser this year. There's no doubt about it. I do wonder if there was conversation about, so David, I'm thinking about your presentation and anyone else's. Are they open to a pre-recorded webinar?
Yes, they are. They made that clear that you could pre-record or do it live.
That's good. Okay, good to have options. Thanks, David.
Yeah, I have a meeting with the subcommittee on the trustee track coming up. I think it's next week, Thursday. It's coming up soon anyway. So I'll double check and make sure more details so we have those, and I'll share them.
Thank you.
All of our board members have been updated on their membership. Is that correct? We've updated our membership?
Yes, another win for Cindy. She batch renewed everyone.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, the only other thing I have is a reminder from Johanna that even though she hasn't been sending out reminders to put in hours, because in general, we haven't had volunteers working and putting in hours, but board members have been. You've been reading and preparing in advance for our board meetings and our study sessions and participating in those. So I hope you're putting in your 4 or 5 hours for the month. If you haven't, please log on and or send Joanna an email message with your hours for the last few months. I think those are the only things I have, unless anyone has any questions for the Government Affairs Committee. We'll move then to the Finance Committee. Who's going to present? David or Kay?
Well, I think if you want to talk about the 10-year plan, I thought Cindy's report in the monthly director's report was very well detailed. I did produce a new 10-year plan with the suggested 15% reduction in tax revenue for it would be for 2022 and 23, and then a slow increase from that point of 5% per assessment cycle. It also includes what we've been doing of the 2% increase in spending every year without any pause in that. And have also corrected the, still needs work, but the update in the transfers between the accounts. I guess what I get out of this is, because a lot of the numbers are speculative, that even in a bad or worst case scenario, like reduction in income, that our long-term reserves still can carry us through without any reduction in spending for expenses, while still maintaining a short-term operating reserve and the capital replacement reserve, which is in good shape. But that was my main takeaway from doing the exercise of a little bit more drastic reduction in tax revenue. That we are, what I get out of it is that we are currently in a strong position to weather such a reduction, is what it comes down to.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, Kay?
I do not.
No?
No.
Bill, you have a chance to take a look at that. These were the numbers you requested. You have any comments or thoughts?
Yes, a big sense of relief. I was really anticipating much more serious consequences. So I would also note that I think that's the power of having that 10-year financial plan as a ritual in the board. It in this case can really give me a feeling of safety.
Okay, thank you. I will reiterate some of the things I shared before. I think this is much in excess of anything we should expect to actually happen. If it did, we would be looking at needing to have some other available income, which would probably mean going back to our citizens for a vote to increase the mill levy by 2026, because we would not be able to meet the absolute minimums required in the operating fund or in the short-term reserve fund that are required for 2027. If it's more in line with what we did as Plan C and looked at our study session, we're good through the whole 10-year time period and still have long-term reserves. Perhaps we'll be someplace in between those two numbers, but we'll see. We will need, as a board, to give direction to Claudine and staff what kind of numbers to expect for planning purposes for a draft budget. And that is the review process starts in August at our August meeting. So we'll give some more thought and consideration to that. Right now, our August study session to be announced. I will be suggesting that we probably will want to try to have one to help us come to some kind of agreement as to what kind of guidance to give for budget preparation. Okay, thank you. Finance Committee, you have anything else?
Not at this point, John.
David, did you want to say something about the transfer to the funds?
Oh, the discussion we had on transferring surplus funds into the long-term reserves. Was just a matter of timing on that. In 2018, there were transfers made because we have had surpluses for several years. In 2019, there was not any transfers made to the long-term. And we are planning on, our Cindy will make that happen because we did have some excesses. That will obviously change if the revenue goes down. What point am I missing, Kay? More just the timing. That if we know that we're meeting our minimums, that we will wait for the 13th month to decide on actual transfers to the long term. But if we come up with shortage in the minimums at the end of the year, at that point we need to make transfers from the long term into the operating to make sure that at 12/31 we are meeting those minimum required balances. But that is just something we had a discussion in the finance committee meeting last week on how to make sure that we are complying with these policy balances in the reserve funds.
Good. Thank you. The other thing about that is we have not actually been pulling money out of the capital reserve fund for capital efforts. We haven't needed to because we've been able to cover it in our regular operating. And of course, right now, we don't plan to have any capital expenditures this year. But that's something else for us to kind of keep in mind, because some of those funds could be ending up moving into the long term. And when we look at the 10-year plan, that's helpful to know just how much and when we start using that up, if you will. Okay. Anyone have any questions with regard to any of the discussion here on the 10-year strategic plan? Everyone understands it then, right?
John, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I'm going to go backwards. Kay, thanks for bringing up the transfer question. And what I said offline with the committee was Cindy and I would, at the end of the year, look at all the feedback we've received from the finance committee. And if some of these can be operationalized, such as the 13th month as a trigger, we will make recommended amendments to the finance policy. So what I wanted to let you all know is we won't be doing them as they come up, because I think they may be coming up with some regularity. So give us till the end of the year and we will correct the policy so that when Kay, David, Cindy, and Claudine win the lottery and we head out of town, you'll have those processes recorded. John, you made some expressions. I wanted to assure you, I don't actually play the lottery, but that's the plan.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I guess I feel like we can go to this last 13th month and actually make a move now as far as the transfer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry, to clarify.
You're
that
talking about
move,
the policy.
yes,
thing.
it's just kind of ratifying it as a process that the board values. Okay.
That's an excellent idea. Okay.
I'm sure it was one of theirs. Okay, the second one is the August study session. So I want to clarify the expectation for staff at the about the scenarios. I'm unclear. What I thought I heard was until about 3 minutes ago was I was with the staff's able assistants to present a very rough draft of best, worst, and probable. But what I think I just heard you say was in August, the board would determine those numbers. Can you clarify what the assignment is?
Oh, you're correct on your assignment. And for the study session, yes, the 3-case scenario, the board is asked for from staff.
Yep. Okay, good.
At the board meeting, the board needs to give you some guidance as to either which of those cases or some other case to follow for preparing your draft budget.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you. Mhm.
Sure. Anything else? Okay, we then have the director's report, short and sweet as it is. You have anything you want to share, Claudine, specifically?
Oh, please know I take full credit for everything Cindy wrote in her exquisite report. And then I hope you noticed Joanna and Cindy actually together were part of their ordinary tasks this year were to move us to paperless everything. And they found the time to make human resource processes paperless. So they did it. Why not use COVID to carry us forward? So thank you to Joanna and Cindy for that. It's not a small item. And so the staff is learning new systems in a good way. I will go to my director's report is wanted to let you know that Karen Randonitis was selected as our interim program and outreach services supervisor. That started June 6th. It ends December 31st. We'll make any decisions we need to after that, but I will let you know that she's already entered the tactical team and is doing a very helpful job for me, let alone I think the team. So kudos to Karen for stepping up when the world was topsy-turvy. Next, we'll talk about, I'm going to skip down to the library column. So I think it's actually almost everything is political now, it seems. You can't brush your teeth without politics being involved. And I did think it was very appropriate for the library to make a statement about the services we've offered in the past and our promises for related services in the future. They're all steeped in the values that you all approved. And I hope it looks, as it does to me, as part of the trajectory of programs and services we're already doing. If that does not ring true, let's talk about that. What I will say is we are not the only, I'm happy to say we're not the only agency in town who's thinking about this. There's a group, I can't think of their name right now, Resiliency Committee, Estes Valley.
Estes Valley Resiliency, yeah.
Okay, and I'm sure there are others, not least of which is restorative justice, but the call for civility is, I think where a lot of us are focusing our attention, let alone anti-racism. And it is true that all our books were checked out in a very short period of time. What I wanted to bring up is I don't know, you never know today what the perception of that will be and how people might react, not respond, but react to it. So far, we've really received, I'm gonna say, I don't know, 7 non-library people replies of gratitude for seeing kind of an affirmative, forward-thinking commitment to civility in the Estes Valley and anti-racism. Something I was not able to write in the letter was, well, we don't have a very large African-American population in Estes Park. I think that's self-evident, but we sure do have a sizable immigrant population. And what I don't know if any of you saw, I just learned it as the library's a member of our local chamber, was apparently there were some hate notes put on tourist cars this weekend. So, there's a lot of ways to look at this. There are bigger issues in the world, but our local one is that all of us who live and work together in the Estes Valley are not necessarily caring about one another or seeing eye to eye on how to treat one another. So please know the program team is settling in, and we are in relationship with Restorative Justice. In fact, Joanna Stensland is the main contact there. So you will see some responsiveness. August, we're looking for a series of inclusivity, tolerance, diversity, anti-racism book clubs for all ages. And again, we're going to have our conflict resolution month in October. So wanted to just remind you, it's in many ways not necessarily new for us, but at the library, but perhaps more overt and more pointed. So your feedback and comments would be welcome, but I assure you the public has been very, very, very affirming.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any comments or questions on that topic before we move on? Bill?
I just want to compliment, both the library and Restorative Justice on their efforts in this direction. This effort began months ago, but given what's happened this summer, we can understand how important it is. And the other thing is, given the stance the library's taken, won't be surprised if there's some pushback from elements of our community. And I know Claudine and the staff are prepared for that, but I just, want them to know that the board will be behind them as they take on these difficult issues. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see anyone. Claudine, you want to move to the reopening plan?
The last item, John, is the starting this week. We have almost everything to open on Wednesday. We had a meeting earlier this afternoon, and of course, what you're looking at with this reopening plan is, what is it, a one-pager? We have one 8-page document.
Yes.
and another 8-page document. But the point is, we have scripts, we have protocols. And when I say we, I want to give 95% credit to Mark Riffle, Peggy Moore, Curtis Kelly. Pretty much everyone on staff has had input, either expressing their allergy to a cleaning product that we want to make sure doesn't set anything off, to our safety protocols. So we just learned today that we want to be able to, as other businesses have, is to hand out masks to those who show up without one. And that hasn't arrived, which we were hoping to get it today. So Mark and the team are on the hunt for local ones. It will be arriving on Friday. Joanna is deputy safety, so we have several people on it. But know that this is not the deep version of the plan. This is the executive summary. I'm hoping if there's any questions that I will attempt to answer them first, but I'm very grateful that Peggy, Joanna, and Mark are here to go more in depth should you have any questions about it. John, is there anything you'd like me to start with?
Well, let's just open it up for questions and see if anything is brought up. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to go through the summary, as well as knowing that tomorrow volunteers, including us, are invited to show up at the library between 9 and 1 and help test this process. So any comments, questions? Ann, Finley.
I might know of someone that locally for masks, Claudine, if you need somebody. So I could check with her right now to see if she's been making them kind of ongoing, if you want.
Absolutely. Of course, we're
Okay.
looking at these as more disposable, but what a tremendous gift it would be to hand out handmade masks for those who
Yeah.
don't need.
She's not charging, so
Yeah, very much so.
I'll-
Thank you.
I'll check with her.
Well, especially if they can be washed and reused after washing. That'd be great. Thank you.
John, thank you for your, what are they called again? KN95s?
Yes, NK95.
Thank you very much. I know I'm glad to have mine. I do put mine through the wash, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go. Thanks. Any other questions?
Anyone have any comments or questions about the reopening effort?
When will you let us in?
And the front door will be opened at 9 o'clock tomorrow for volunteers only, correct? Yep.
So Ann, will we see you in the morning?
If you'll let me come in and volunteer, I'll be there at 9.
Yes, ma'am. We need you to volunteer as a test patron to walk through the door and tell us how our systems check out for you. And then we open the doors to the general public on Wednesday, 9 a.m.
Okay, I'll be there tomorrow at 9.
I look forward to seeing you. Thanks, Ann.
I'll be there at least by 10.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the reopening? This is your chance. I know there were some concerns expressed earlier. Kay.
Claudine, you made a comment earlier about comments from the community. Would it be appropriate to share them now?
You bet. Thanks for bringing that up. So to be really fair, we have had very polite, everything is about civility, my civility filter right now. People have generally said, why aren't you open yet? Restaurants are open, Safeway's open. Are you an essential service or aren't you? So no one has been antagonistic. Some people have been short, but all of them are essentially signaling we're ready, and we hope you are too. So I think that I think those were largely, they're not largely, all but one of them were directed to our generic email answers at EstesValleyLibrary.com. So it wasn't even to me or the board, it was a general, when are you opening? I consider that quite positive, as I know that many of my colleagues running different government agencies have had less kind inquiries. Last part I want to say, I think there's going to be two things that Curtis is going to help us message even more thoroughly to the community. Okay, the first one is, while we have the county's health order in place, right, there was a variance in there that says you don't have to require it if you meet certain conditions, the mask or the face covering. We are requiring until that health order is sunsets, or if we receive some clear confirmation that it is legal for us to continue requiring it for some period of time. So I do think we're going to experience, some folks will appreciate it and some folks will not. So we will do our best to manage that. And the second kind of maybe political highlight to item to highlight is, it's kind of subtle in there, is we are only open Monday through Friday, 9 to 1. This is not our effort to not spend time with patrons. It's everything takes a little longer with under these unusual conditions. And the health order actually states you may open 50% to the public if and you continue prioritizing curbside service. So in order to do that, that's the other half of the day. So I just wanted to really push that point for you. And I don't know that the businesses it will make a difference to them and their perception of the library, but for the summer, we see it as a positive to stay closed on weekends so that our downtown business neighbors have that parking for their use. But again, we'll be back and let you know, Board of Trustees, if what we end up doing is maybe curbside diminishes. Maybe what we hear back from the community is, no, we only want curbside on weekends when I can't park, and we want regular hours 9 to 5. So we're going to keep flexing, but this is how we're going to open. If that raises any questions or comments, we've got Peggy, who has done the yeoman's work of this curbside service thus far. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Claudine. I'd like to express to Peggy and all of her staff that have been involved in that curbside. I've done it a few times. My wife has also, and I've talked to others, and they've done an excellent job. Appreciate it. Anyone have any other comments or questions for Claudine with regard to this topic? Reopening on Wednesday. Yes, Ann Finley.
I just put it in the chat, but she's going to sew some tomorrow for you guys. How many would you like?
Hey, Mark, how many do we want?
You can unmute, Mark.
Sorry, I was making a cocktail. My apologies. We have a stock of 20 that I'm going to pick up in the morning. Claudine, what do you think we would utilize above that? This is just until Friday. Hopefully our delivery shows up on Friday as anticipated.
Well, Mark, I'm an overachiever. We talked about that earlier, and a stoic, and I say 100.
Ah!
Oh, she can't do that.
No, I'm not saying she can. But if the question is how many would I like between now and Friday, the answer is 100.
I'll just tell her to do what she can.
Hey, Ann, I've got 2 at home. I was blowing smoke earlier today. I was like, oh, I've got like a box. I was like, oh, I've got 2. So 98, Ann.
We'll take as many as she can offer.
Thank you, Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks, Mark.
Okay. I don't see anyone else. Oh, Beth? Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for all the work. I can't really understand how much it must be both emotionally and just time-wise to figure all these things out. And I feel protective and concerned about folks who might not like some of the rules. And I know that generally everyone I run into in the library is amazing in terms of customer service and kindness, but I don't see a lot of folks having to take and deal with some ridiculous behavior, which I'm hoping you don't get, but I'm hearing it at Safeway, I'm hearing it in other places, and there's something that's going on. So I just feel a little tender, nervous, something for you all. So I just want to say that. I don't know if you've done any role plays or any strategizing about how to deal with someone who's really uncooperative, but just putting it out there.
Yeah, we have discussed that, and we chose kind of in conjunction with the police department not to have a police person present, but they would be called if need be. Correct, Claudine?
That is correct. We hope to use some de-escalation language, and we have it in our scripts. I would like to, because it's my favorite thing when we have a guest, to put them on the spot repeatedly. So Sarah, you've actually been at the forefront with Cliffhanger. I would love for you to share your experience.
Thanks, Claudine. We opened Cliffhanger on May, and say it's been 90%. We have one of our members, Lois Ellenwood, sewing masks for us. No, she will not sew more. She was, I'd say it's been 90%. She can't keep up. She is sewing every night. Say it's been, and it's funny because we're making them out of our 2016 Hoedown napkins. She can't those for this. We're making them out of our. We have a large supply now. It took a while for us to get the elastic, but she's sewing like crazy. I have been told, lectured that COVID is a conspiracy. The police have shown up at the post office multiple times. Lots of tension. But luckily, when they come into Cliffhanger books, the smell of used books just lulls them into happiness. And pretty much it's been a good experience. I did have to put on a mask. We offered the mask. We ask everyone to use hand sanitizer. That person was so frustrated, and I had to ask them to leave, and they did. So no escalation, but yes, we have had to ask people to leave, or I have had to ask people to leave. So no, ask people to leave. But folks are very happy that we're open. We're selling lots of books. And overall, people are just happy to have books in their hands. So I think you'll have a successful opening. People are very excited to hear that you're opening.
Thanks very much, Sarah.
Okay, I think I don't see anyone else wishing to make comment on this. We don't need to take a vote. This is operations. I encourage you, if you are available tomorrow, anytime between 9 and 1, to try to stop by and just see how things are actually progressing and the processes. I will be there. I'll be there to sign some papers too. Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else, Claudine? Okay. Let's move on then. Friends and Foundation, Ann Finley.
I'm going to pass to Sarah for a little bit. She's the one that's going to do the budget review. So.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
First, I want to mention we have a new board member, Barb Cole. She will be with us at our June 22nd board meeting, which of course occurs next Monday. We're very excited to have her join us. She comes with lots of leadership skills. You all will too. So moving on to what Annie mentioned, our budget review. I created a report for my board of the absolute worst case scenario, and that is as of May 31st this year. What I came up with worst case scenario is that and that is as of May 31st, with our fundraising, would have a fundraising loss of just under 83,000. So how are we going to make that up? We're going to talk about that at our June 22nd board meeting, and we can let you know through our minutes or through a report that I'm going to make that up. Decisions that I've asked them to make. Are we going to use reserves? We do have reserves. Are we going to cut our fundraising expenses? Or are we going to give less to the library in 2020? Or a combination of all three. So those are decisions that we'll be making at our June 22nd meeting. And we'll let you know as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
One before I pass it back in is
Sarah, you're breaking up a lot. If you can be a little closer to your mic, it might help.
Actually, laptop. I think maybe that's the problem. Just one last note, apartment D is open if you know anyone.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have unless you have questions.
Ann Finley had something she wanted to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's what Sarah brought up is going to be a high priority at our board meeting. And, you know, obviously we would love to just still be able to give you what we have agreed to do. So that's all I have to say. So we'll let you know what the board, what conclusions they come to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you. Any questions for the Friends and Foundation board members? No? Did you have anything else to share with us, Ann, as far as Friends and Foundation activities?
No, I'm just, the bookstore is doing really well. We are in a bit of a pinch for volunteers, so we're still looking. If you know of anyone that is interested in volunteering at the bookstore, it'd be great. We'd love to have them. Otherwise, we're having our first Zoom board meeting, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay, very good. And Bill, you're going to be able to attend that?
Of course, I love their board meetings.
Okay.
I look forward to it. I actually have a question, if that's okay.
Please.
I'm just curious, and what kind of impact, if any, has the COVID had on your fundraising activities outside of the books?
Outside of the bookstore, what effects?
Sure. So our membership mailing, which of course went out February 1st, we have not done as well as we have in previous years. I expect my worst case scenario predicts a 50% drop in donations. We are not looked at by our donors as a basic need. So recreating that story and showing that the library truly is a basic need is what we'll work on for our year-end campaign. I'm going to put numbers back up. I'm also concerned, Claudine has submitted us, I have as well. We are not receiving those grants. So trying to tackle that and figure out why will be something we'll work on the next couple months.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, my takeaway is that COVID has made life at Friends and Foundation difficult, like it has all over the place. That's my takeaway. So thanks.
It has. We have of course, because we have lots of different outlets. We have the rental apartments, we have individual donations. So we've got a lot of the pie can keep.
Sarah, I didn't understand that last bit, but maybe other people did.
No.
We have a lot of different income sources. It's not just individual donors or grants. We have the rental income and the bookstore.
Okay.
Am I cutting out too much?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I think we heard that part that time. So you have a number of different areas of income, and it's straight donations that you were saying you expect about a 50% decrease so far this year. Is that right?
Yes.
Any other comments, questions for the Friends and Foundation? Appreciate very much you giving us that update. We have come to the end of our printed agenda. Does anyone have any other business to bring up before we adjourn?
Yes, John. Cindy very politely pointed out that the 4th of July is not on a Thursday, it's on a Saturday.
It is.
Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I don't see anyone seeking to bring anything else up. I appreciate your participation tonight. Upcoming trustee meetings, there are no meetings scheduled for July as in past years. So please enjoy your, excuse me. Don't usually get phone calls on that phone. Enjoy your freedom for the month of July. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy. We will have a study session in August. That's Thursday, August the 6th. And we will be planning most likely to still have it as a Zoom meeting. We'll see what's transpiring in the meantime, but you'll have an update. And I guess I'd ask Claudine that we just email out to the board the link. I know it's on the calendar, but it's real handy if it's emailed out the day before in an email.
Plus password.
Yeah, if needed. I didn't need the password, but okay. Okay, and the Friends and Foundation are having their meeting next Monday. And the library will be closed on Saturday, July 4th. You have I guess I should have asked with regard to the reopen, is there a tentative expansion of the reopen in the staff's workings or not?
The short answer, John, is no, we don't have a date for the tentative reopening, but we do have a plan for a fuller reopening.
Okay, you have the plan worked and you're basically waiting for the health department and the county to lift other restrictions.
Yes, I think once there's some clarity as to why Georgia's doing so well and Arizona's doing so poorly after they've lifted their health orders, I think I'm sure Larimer County will respond accordingly.
Right. Okay. So until we have that, then the plan before us is what we'll be carrying out through most of the summer at least.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. It is by my clock 7:46, and we will